All right. Hello. Hopefully everything is working okay. We are doing Shadowgate 64. That is the new game. So cool. Now we're gonna start with talking about the manual. I downloaded a copy of that. I actually don't know if I have the manual for this game. I bought Shadowgate 64, I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago. It was one of those games that, well, it's not exactly that popular, is it? As far as the Nintendo 64 games go. But I thought I would give it a shot because I want to play a Nintendo 64 game because I'm working on a game that is Nintendo 64 like. And in case you find this on YouTube or checking it out from this stream, I'm working on a game called Be Knighted 64. That is B as in honeybee and knighted as in to knight someone. And it is Zelda Nintendo 64 inspired, and it's on itch.io. There's a prototype. It's not very fleshed out yet, but I'm working on a demo for it right now. And so I wanted to play something in this style, and I was thinking, there's Quest 64, but that game sucks. And there's Iden Chronicles, which is not a great not a great RPG. It's not a JRPG. It's a Western RPG, but it's not a great RPG. But it's like 60 hours long, and I don't really want to play a 60-hour long RPG right now. And then I was like, oh, there's Shadowgate. Shadowgate, of course, comes from the tradition of. I think the first one was called a Mac Venture. It was an adventure game for the Macintosh. I actually have a copy of it because my parents had a Mac SE, and it came in this fancy box, and it's in floppy disks and stuff. And it is a point-and-click adventure game. My understanding is that there was also an NES port, and there is a sequel called Beyond Shadowgate, and that this game, Shadowgate 64 Trials of the Four Towers, was intended to have a sequel that apparently is basically done and was just never released. Because I think they either got bought and it was the end of the life cycle of the N64, but whatever. There's a sequel that hopefully someday someone will just, happen upon a cartridge that just happens to have the whole game on it, and they'll just dump it and we can actually play it. That would be cool. Um, because it looks interesting. It doesn't quite look like Shadowgate to me. It looks more like a Castlevania, but that's a whole nother story. And Castlevania 64 was one of the games I was considering playing because I love Castlevania 64. Not a great game, but it's one that I really, really enjoy. So anyway, we're going to get started here by taking a look at the manual. And I think I'm going to try to make this a habit for games that are of the sort of GameCube, PS2 era and earlier, because their manuals are interesting, and the earlier back you get, the less tutorials they have in the game. So this will help us figure out what to do with this game. So of course we're starting out. We've got the cool logo here, and the actual logo for the game is better on the instruction booklet than it is in the game. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Yeah, so what can we glean from this? Here's the scepter with the eyeball and the snakes. I assume this is the wizard's staff. There's something about an evil wizard in this game, I think. I could be wrong about that. But we have no idea what this eyeball scepter has to do yet with the story. We'll find out. All right. We have our announcement of the stick drift problem that happens. Well, not really. This is about resetting the dead zone. Okay, so we begin here with the first page of which basically just introduces it and says that Kimco was the producers of Shadowgate for the NES. And in fact, the artwork that I have on the left is from I believe it's the Japanese box art for Shadowgate NES, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's fantastic artwork. In my opinion, much better than the American one. In fact, I can get rid of this one for a second. Let's, and this one. And you can actually take a look at those. Very cool. Mainly, I just like this styled portrait for the sky. The stuff in the background is not that great. Anyway, back to the manual. So they made that one on the NES, and there was also Shadowgate Beyond Shadowgate, which I don't think is uh, mentioned here, but we have, if you have never played the original Shadowgate, you're in for an entertaining experience. Shadowgate 64 is a puzzle-packed fantasy adventure that you explore in the first-person perspective, which, of course, is always a strange thing on the Nintendo 64. And I have some notes about that, but we'll get to that. You are Del Cottonwood, a carefree halfling caught up in a monumental battle between good and evil. Your goal is to escape from Castle Shadowgate. But first you'll have to pass through 4 treacherous towers and survive the horrible secret inside the Chamber of Holding. One wrong move or lapse in judgment, and you'll pay the ultimate price. Only your wit and cunning can destroy the ancient evil that once again threatens the land of Cal Torlin. Cool. I didn't realize, I had heard about Shadowgate a long, long time ago, because my parents had the Mac SE and we had Shadowgate, but I never touched it. And I never was under the impression that this was such a Dungeons and Dragons style adventure, but it really is. All right, let's get into the introduction. We invite you to become part of the world of Shadowgate by joining the Circle, official online society. Oh, okay, let's see. Let's check this out. Okay, Shadowgate, www.shadowgate.com/SG64. I want to know if that website is still up. I doubt it is. Yeah, but we'll find out. Let's see. I'm going to try to type that in. Shadowgate.com/SG64. Let's see if we pull anything up. I don't think that, nope, that's not up. But let's see if we can find it on the Wayback Machine. Okay, so we'll see if there's anything there. But let's, in fact, I will probably save this for the next session. I think this might be a 2-session game, which would be cool. Oh, Wayback Machine does not have much for this, does it? April 28th, 2001. Wow, that is an old snapshot. Okay. Yeah, so join the Circle. It's free. You are formally requested to join the enclave of wizards within the Circle, where you will have access to hints, comics, images, and much more based on Shadowgate 64, Shadowgate Classic for the Game Boy Color, which actually I have that game. I could play that at some point. And the upcoming N64 game Shadowgate Rising, which unfortunately never came out. So there's a click here to join. Presumably it means that you have to put in an email address, which will no longer work. All right, so anyway, back to the introduction. Long ago, powerful sorcerers, mighty warriors, and mythical beasts walked the land in the kingdom of Cal Torlin. A fierce battle raged between the noble king Arond and the ancient evil, a dark sorcerer known as the Warlock Lord. Incredible creativity on display here already. Tempered steel and courageous knights were no match against his black magic, and soon the kingdom teetered on the brink of annihilation. In desperation, the king summoned the master wizard Lakmir to thwart the Warlock Lord's plans of destruction. The wizard guided a young warrior, Jer, to his birthright, the legendary Staff of Ages. With its power in hand, Jer vanquished the Warlock Lord, banishing him within a magic circle of Shadowgate. In recognition of his valor, Jer was named the first Lord of the Westland, and then eventually the King of all Cal Torlin. The timeless wizard Lakmir took up residence within the castle, a sentinel against the escape of the imprisoned evil. 100 years have passed since Lakmir's footsteps echoed through Shadowgate's darkened halls, the once proud edifice now reduced to crumbled ruins by years of neglect. Treasure hunters plunder the recesses deep within the keep's chambers, while thieves and raiding parties prey upon the unsuspecting caravans crossing the nearby hills. It's on this day that Shadowgate's dungeon greets a new resident, a young halfling named Del Cottonwood, the sole survivor of a caravan raid. Escape and death are the only options in the damp cells beneath the castle. Armed with his wits, Del is determined to find freedom. That is our character, Del. Okay. And here we go, controller configuration. So, my first tip to anyone attempting to play this game is, if you're doing it on a modern controller like I am, I'm doing it on an Xbox controller, no surprise there, is to reconfigure the controls for ease of use. So, I always like left trigger for Z, because that makes sense. That's how you would hold it on an actual Nintendo 64 controller. That's pretty standard. And then left bumper, actually put R on here. And then over here, I have A, and then trigger is B. And the reason for that is because you want to actually put the analog stick on the right analog stick. The left analog stick should be the right. And then the right analog stick should be your C buttons. And I'll explain that in a moment, as it relates to this, because the C buttons are your movement, your forward, left, and right, forward, back, left, and right movement, and then the control stick. Hang on, did I get that right? The C stick, the C buttons are your directional movement, and the control stick is look around, which is backwards from newer style first-person games. So if you swap those, then it'll all feel good. But that means that you have a hard time hitting the face buttons with that stuff, and since the N64 only has A and B, put them on the right bumper, right trigger. Nice and easy. The only part that's awkward about that is that you have to navigate menus with your right stick, because that's how you do it, but otherwise it works just fine. I just tested it out with like the first room, got my bearings in there. Okay, now this one wanted a game pack, which of course we don't have to worry about with an emulator, in order to save the game. Okay, let's, all right, here we go. Because sometimes these manuals had some hints in them. As you explore, you'll see exactly what Del sees in his world. You can change the view by look around by moving the control stick. You'll spot something that needs investigating. Right. Okay, so this is all telling us basically how to play the game, which we'll describe later. I have not yet found a map, but we're looking for a map. Saving and loading. We have make your escape, you're gonna die a lot. This is one of those games that in the style of the old adventure games has incredibly punishing traps. So we're gonna be watching out for that. Inventory. So here's some hints on what we might find. We have the Ring of the Dead, crafted by the powerful Lakmir the Timeless himself. Don't know what that's gonna do. And books. Just books. Treasure, of course, elixirs and potions, keys, the Staff of Ages, once wielded by the hero Lord Jer, holds the power to defeat the Warlock Lord. Okay, so we need this. The Pixie Flute, which looks more like an oboe than it does a flute, but that's okay. This ancient magical artifact may hold the key to your escape. The Dragon Flute, which again does not look like a flute, looks like a cornetto. Is the ancient means to control and command the dragons in the map. Now here's our characters. Contrary to what modern RPGs are, well, there's quite a cast of characters here, actually. Let's go ahead and look through them. Del. And the reason I'm going through all of this in advance is because most of this stuff, to my knowledge, is not actually in the game. This is all the extra stuff that you got in the manual. Castle Shadowgate is crammed with danger and surprises, and you'll meet many inhabitants, both living and dead, as you unravel the mysteries enveloping this immense keep. Many of these eccentric characters are uncooperative, but if you find a way to earn their trust, they'll help you on your quest. So we're playing as this guy, Del the Halfling, although honestly he's quite a bit taller than this guy. So halflings are giants in this world. Obviously just blown up to show the main character here. He's got little elf ears. Interesting, classic D&D look. And you can kind of see how some early anime fantasy stuff kind of got inspiration from artwork like this. And maybe I don't know who these artists are who did the artwork for this. That would be interesting to know. Anyway, you'll assume the role of Halfling Del Cottonwood as you explore Castle Shadowgate, a free spirit off to seek his fortune. Del found himself waylaid and thrown into the dungeon beneath the castle. Here's Lakmir, the evil sorcerer, I assume. Legendary and mysterious sorcerer Lakmir is best remembered for his role in mentoring the young Lord Jair in the ways of defeating the evil Warlock Lord. Okay, so he's the good guy. After Lakmir died, the castle fell into ruin. Some, however, whisper that Lakmir isn't dead, but rather that he sleeps. That he sleeps the wizard sleep. Ooh, the wizard sleep. Okay, he's in cryo sleep, but it's wizard sleep. In order to be ready for when he is needed again. So we're gonna have to find this guy somewhere in Castle Shadowgate, sleeping. Belzar. One of Lakmir's former students, Belzar bathed in the dark waters of black magic until the evil saturated his soul. Belzar is determined to free his master, the Warlock Lord, from the Chamber of Holding to exact his revenge upon the land. So he's our bad guy for this game. And of course, the Warlock Lord, the Lich King, or whatever you want to call him. Known by many names, the Warlock Lord is hated and feared by all races. The powerful magic wards of Castle Shadowgate bind his spirit and power from the people of Kaltorlan. Okay, cool. And then all of the inhabitants of the castle. So people just live in this dangerous place, presumably. The Seeress makes her living at the inn, telling visitors their fortunes. She is the reason you are alive and has a purpose for you. Uh-oh. Agar, the magician, came to Castle Shadowgate to learn Lakmir's magical secrets, but now he is held captive in the dungeon. Oh, we're going to see him very shortly. The magician seems resigned to his dismal fate. It would take a miracle to save him. Oh, maybe we'll have to think about that. Treasure hunters. These seekers of fortune have excavated much of the grounds around the castle, so it pays to watch your step. Oh, so we're going to have to watch out for pits that these guys dug, huh? The Dungeon Keeper. The Dungeon Keeper is the bane of every prisoner held in Castle Shadowgate. Simple enough. Dwarven soldiers, these deadly members of the Black Guard, are personal troops of Belzar. Their gleaming battle axes are sharper than their wits. Okay, so they're dum-dums. Modor. Modor is the owner of the inn inside the castle. While Modor knows many things about the castle, he doesn't trust strangers, especially halflings. Uh-oh. And now we come to the end. We're almost ready to play the game. The Shadowgate Compendium. Now these are the important things about the area. Kaltorlan is the land. Known for its peace and prosperity, Kaltorlan has fallen into ruin and despair. An ailing king sits upon the throne, and the very heart of the kingdom, Shadowgate, now serves as a den for thieves and those seeking their fortunes. Westland, the vassal lands to the west, known as the Westland, is a loose collection of barons and dukes who swore allegiance to the king of Kaltorlan centuries ago. In recent years, the Westland has eroded into dozens of factions controlled by corrupt robber barons and thugs. And then the Circle of 12. I believe this has something to do with the original game. Long ago, Lakmir, along with his brother Talamar, gathered the powerful mages of the times, and formed a brotherhood. I'm having trouble with this. They were called the Circle of 12, and they were a force for good to the developing races. But then Talamir turned against his brethren and destroyed the noble ambitions of the Enclave. Castle Shadowgate. The mysterious castle has long been a part of myth and legend. It is said to have been created by the combined might of the Circle of 12 to serve as a place of learning. This living castle houses many secrets, so it's sort of like a magical school, right? That was what it was intended to be. The Chamber of Holding. This ominous building placed in the center of Shadowgate contains the magical essence of the Circle of 12. It is the only place in all of the lands with the power to hold the Warlock Lord imprisoned. Okay, and that's our manual. Let's get rid of that, and now let's get ready to actually play the game. Only 20 minutes later. That's all right. Let's do it.